AITA for refusing to let my BIL see my son after causing me to miss his birth? I am 30s, got few close friends from college that I hang out with, including my BIL sister's husband, Austin. My wife and I are expecting our first baby, and because this was our first, we struggled with understanding things like whether my wife was going into labor or just dealing with pain, soreness. We ended up in the hospital for nothing since she was due in July. Therefore, I've limited my time out with the guys, especially in the evening, nighttime. I've skipped meetings with them to stay home by my wife's side, ready for any emergencies. My friends were upset, they haven't seen much of me in a while. I explained my situation, but they gave me crap about it every time. Especially Austin, who kept pressuring me into going out for few beers, saying he was in my shoes twice and has experience. He said that XYZ signs. Can't say it here. Mean my wife would soon be in labor and advised me to relax. One night I caved into going to his farm since his birthday was days prior and I missed it cause my wife got sick. He wasn't happy and whined about it. My wife was with my in-laws and I wanted to call her but couldn't find my phone. I put it on the counter but wasn't there. I borrowed one of their phones after an hour or so of search to call my wife, and her sister picked up asking where I was. I was in dismay when she said she was at the hospital with my wife cause her water broke and she went into labor. I couldn't explain. I drove to the hospital ASAP but was met with my Phil berating me for ignoring his text and 18 missed calls. I wasn't allowed into the delivery room cause my wife screamed at me to stay out. I felt awful. I waited outside while my in-laws berated me for my neglect even when I said I lost my phone. Chris said Austin hid my phone after seeing Phil's text to get back at me for missing his birthday. I blew up at Austin, calling him a SOB for doing this. He said Chris was a liar and swore he didn't see any text or calls and he hid it as joke to scare me a bit. I left after this and haven't seen him in days. The guys got involved begging me to make things right with Austin, who didn't know. Otherwise he would have told me, so it was misunderstanding and my wife bears the blame for not letting me into the room. But can I blame her? I refused to see him. My sister said I should let Uncle Austin see little Timmy cause he's longing to meet him as family. And even cried and said I was being unfair to him and all those years of friendship we had. But I said no, I won't let him meet my son after this. Chris said Austin bragged about it later on, then Chris decided to tell me because he thought it was wrong that I get blamed by my in-laws. ETA. I'm sorry for not responding, but I was very busy. And to make few things clear. 1. None of my family said anything about not allowing Austin to see my son except my sister and my friends. 2. Chris is one of the guys who were there that night. He and Austin aren't very close and Austin thinks Chris hates him for no reason and doesn't like having him around much, but just for the group's sake. Austin tries to keep the peace. In my opinion, Chris is a decent guy. 3. My in-laws are upset with me as well as my wife and say that even though Austin was at fault, I too was for being reckless and irresponsible. Thinking face. NTA. You need new adult friends. Nothing funny about what they did. I personally find that unforgivable. NTA. He deliberately hid your phone so you missed your child's birth. That is the type of person you don't want around your child. NTA. He deliberately hid your phone. Not as a joke, but to make you miss the birth of your child. Why should he get to meet the baby after causing a huge issue? NTA. While you dropped the ball by not having your phone on you. Your BIL is ultimately the asshole for deliberately hiding it, knowing that your wife was so close to giving birth. regardless of whether he saw any messages from your Phil. He sounds like an immature idiot and I wouldn't want to be seeing him for some time after this either. Also, your friends suck. If they're going to give you shit about the fact you cannot go out with them as much as you used to because of your responsibilities, then they're not worth keeping. Sorry, but I see this as an esh. Austin is clearly an immature. You need to grow a spine. You let his temper tantrum guilt you into doing something you didn't want to do. Who cares if they're giving you crap? Your family is about to gain a new member. Wife and baby come first. Your bros can be grown-ups and wait their turn. And if they can't, they aren't really your bros. Talk to your wife. Tell her that you let Austin get to you. Tell her that you'll never forgive yourself or him for missing the birth of your first child. Then ask what she wants. And back her up on it. Because right now, you're still putting Austin's temper tantrum over your wife and baby. You need to put things right with them before you spend another second of time thinking about Austin. And you can tell him so. Esh. I get it, you do need different friends. Austin as an they all peer pressured you into going to hang out with them and missing a B-day. But you shouldn't have gone in the first place. To a farm. A farm sounds remote to me. It sounds like a place of bad Wi-Fi. It sounds like hanging out with your friends involves drinking alcohol, which isn't how you want to be arriving to support your partner in labor and is a great way to lose track of time. Simply put, you shouldn't have put yourself in this situation. Being a parent means ditching immature friends. It means missing friends' B-day to put your family first. Austin is a big man who's had many birthdays. And you prioritized his feelings over being next to wife ready for the once-in-a-lifetime event. The birth of your first child and supporting your wife in labor. Not to mention your wife was recently sick while literally in the final days of pregnancy. Thank God she was with her in-laws. Yes, your friends suck and Austin shouldn't be around you or your family again. And you couldn't have predicted that your wife would have gone in labor that day. But that's why in those last 2/3 of a week, birthing partners don't take trips to farms. You massively dropped the ball and you can't shift all the responsibility onto Austin and his peer pressure. You owe your wife a huge apology and need to accept responsibility for prioritizing your friends' feelings over the needs of your wife and child. You should never put yourself in this situation again and be prepared for your wife and in-laws to need time and lots of it to move on from this. Likely they'll always see you in the light of the man who put drinking with his mates over being on call for his wife. Apart from your wife and her family who are entirely justified in their actions. You are a complete for leaving your heavily pregnant wife for your friends. Why did you believe Austin about labor signs? Even if he's a world-renowned obstetrician, he's not your wife's obstetrician. And he's in no position to give you medical advice. He hid your phone to make sure you couldn't leave. He believes he is more important in your life than your wife and your baby. Your sister is an for taking her idiot husband's side. How impressed would she be if she was left to give birth on her own, not knowing where the hell Austin was? Dump all of your friends. The guys are the reason you're even in this mess. If they accepted their place as last behind your family obligations like grown men, none of this would have happened. Austin would be particularly dead to me if I were in your shoes. Which I'm not. Because I'm not an to my spouse at their most vulnerable. Info. Did your wife know you were hanging out with them? Was she fine with it or didn't want you to go? Except your wife. Others are letting you off the hook, but you too are an asshole. You're a 30s male and you allowed peer pressure to force you to hang out? Yes, he stole your phone and that makes him the biggest asshole for him deliberately pulling his Shit, but you as a grown-ass man should be keeping better tabs on your stuff, and you as an adult need to learn to put your foot down, but I guess this was a learning experience for you. Edit ruling. ETA. Your friend as a shit stain. But you caved. Your wife was past her due date. You do not go anywhere. That's on you, bub. I'd be pissed if I was your wife. Esh. This sounds like a 14-year-old boy's excuse for coming home late after a party. It was your responsibility to be there for the birth. Nobody else's. Esh. Any of the friends who've given you shit for not being around, or ta for failing to accept that you can't prioritize them anymore. Your schedule is only going to get tighter now that the baby's here. So they need to understand that you'll have to skip out on invites more often than not. The fact that they're excusing Austin and blaming your wife also doesn't reflect well on them. Austin's ta for hiding your phone when your wife was due at any time. That's true whether or not he saw a message from your Phil. He's a garbage person, and you should never trust him again. If he's going to be at family events that you'd like to attend, then he's going to end up meeting your child at some point. But you don't need to go out of your way to make that happen. You're ta for caving to peer pressure to go hang out with the guys and probably have a few drinks when your wife was past her due date. I get that the wait is unpredictable. But dude, you had one job during that time. To be immediately available to head to the hospital at any moment. You botched it because your boys were whining about not getting hang time. It isn't fair to put that decision off on whatever nonsense Austin told you. Every pregnancy is different, and he was clearly just trying to talk you into something you knew you shouldn't have done. Your wife is not ta here though. No matter what your friends say. She was counting on your support through the whole process. She trusted you to either be with her or be easily reachable when her water broke. And you weren't. You chose to go out instead. So now, in addition to your wife's fears about going through childbirth for the first time, she had to worry about why you weren't there. About why you weren't answering your phone. Given all the stresses of going into labor and all the hormones flooding her system, it's not exactly surprising that she couldn't deal with having you there once you arrived late and full of excuses. Info. What does your wife think about allowing your BIL to see the baby? I'm going to go against the popular opinion here and say Esh. OP's friends are major assholes, yes. But Op, you're also a grown man, so it's also partially your fault. No one held a gun to your head and forced you to go to your buddies. Sure, they've been guilt-tripping you majorly and that sucks. But you're a grown man. Stick up for yourself. In the end, you ultimately chose to not get bashed by your buddies over being there for your wife. True, you didn't know she was going into labor. But that didn't matter before your friends started bashing you. Once again, your friends are major assholes. But you gave into peer pressure. No one made you do anything. Wow. What a mess. I am assuming your wife knew you were with Austin and would have tried to contact you through him. Did he just ignore it? Austin sounds unstable. You are not just a friend having his first child, but his own sister's husband. Why would he undermine you like that? Eek. NTA. What has happened between you and your wife since then? Some more than others, but your friends suck because they can't understand you have a pregnant wife and egg you to come out. Your BIL definitely sucks acting like a 12-year-old because of a missed birthday, and you suck for caving in and not being on alert. Who puts their phone down and out of their sight? Why have it anywhere other than their pockets when your wife is, I'm assuming, in the later stages of the third trimester? You have a right to be mad at Austin for sure, but I'd be just as mad at myself for accepting the invite, but I suppose you couldn't have known it'd turn out the way. As for not letting Austin around, that's a tough one, as you are justified, but it's impractical. He's gonna have to see him at some point, but first and foremost Austin needs to apologize. Like, why would you, as a joke, hide his phone knowing that he could get that call any minute? Edit. I should also note that, did nobody know where the op went? Why did no one call Austin? I know the op made some mistakes, but literally if I was the wife, the parents-in-law, I'd be calling everyone op could be with. Did Austin not get any calls at all? I mean, WTF. Tentative-ish? BIL is unquestionably ta. Who TF hides an expectant father's phone because he's been devoted to his pregnant wife instead of his buddies? Whether or not he knew what was going on, that was a dick move. But this part confuses me. My wife was with my in-laws and I wanted to call her but couldn't find my phone. You agreed to this outing without first consulting your wife? And without making sure you had your phone? Nope. Absolutely not. With a wife that close to labor, you must have a method of contact available at all times. And you really should have checked in with your wife before you agreed to going out. Also, a 10-minute search and you borrow someone else's phone, not a full hour. You are not blameless in this situation based on your description. Let your wife decide who gets to see the baby. And when. Both you and Austin oughta. Austin for hiding the phone and you for actually going out drinking when your wife is ready to pop. But your wife. Your friends for being the immature jackholes they are. You for caving into what your so-called friends want and not what your wife needs. Your Phil for not berating Austin for what he did. Austin sucks. The guys suck. You suck. Is your phone an iPhone? Find My Phone as a thing.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.